So this is where the story stands as of now. A prominent journalist went into his country's consulate in a foreign country but never returned. Then came reports of his country ordering a professional hit on him. Might sound right out of a movie, but it's not. And CCTV footage released by an international news agency tries to piece together what went down in Istanbul 8 days ago. Take a look.
October 2nd. A Saudi journalist enters his country's consulate and never comes out. Theories abound. Various CCTV footage show what transpired on October 2nd. At 3:30 in the morning, a private jet lands at the Istanbul airport. 3:35 a.m., black vans drive on the tarmac, carry the passengers out. 3:37 a.m., Saudi nationals pass through security checks at the airport. 5 minutes past 5 a.m., 9 Saudi nationals are spotted in the lobby of the Mövenpick Hotel. 9:55 a.m., 6 of the Saudi nationals leave the hotel in groups. Between noon and 3 p.m., multiple vehicles enter and leave the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. 14 minutes past 1 p.m., Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi enters the Saudi consulate. 8 minutes past 3 p.m., a black van arrives at the consulate and enters the garage. 2 hours later, a little after 5:30 p.m., Khashoggi's fiancée is seen waiting outside the consulate building. Cut to the Istanbul airport. 5:40 p.m., a white jeep and a private jet are seen waiting on the tarmac. 9 p.m. on October 2nd, a jet carrying Saudi nationals readies for takeoff on the tarmac. If these CCTV footages are something to go by, then it points to a possible hit squad that came in, went into the Saudi consulate and allegedly killed Jamal Khashoggi and left the country. Bureau Report, Wion.
So who is Jamal Khashoggi and why is he at the center of this diplomatic war between Turkey and Saudi Arabia? He's one of the Arab world's most prominent journalists and commentators. He's been known as an outspoken critic of the Saudi regime, daring to go against Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He was once an advisor to the Saudi royal family, even served as a media aide to Prince Turki Al Faisal, who was at the time serving as Director General of the Saudi Intelligence Agency. But rifts between the two sides had resulted in Jamal going into self-imposed exile last year. Here's how things panned out. After studying business administration in the United States, he returned to Saudi Arabia and started his career as a journalist in the 1980s. He interviewed Osama bin Laden several times during the 1980s and 90s. In 2003, he became editor of the Saudi Al Watan newspaper, but was sacked in just 2 months for publishing stories that were critical of the Saudi regime. He then moved to London and later Washington. He returned to Al Watan in 2007, but that stint again was short-lived. While he was in Saudi Arabia, he was even asked to stop posting on Twitter. He moved to the United States a year ago and continued to comment on the Saudi regime's functioning. In his debut column for the Washington Post newspaper, in fact, he said that he and several others had gone into self-imposed exile because they feared being arrested. He also spoke out against Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's crackdown on dissidents. In his writing, he accused the Saudi government of ignoring real extremists in its crackdown. His most recent piece was published on 11th of September. In that column, he criticized the Saudi involvement in the Yemen conflict. After he was reported missing, the Washington Post published a blank column on Friday. And the mysterious disappearance of that journalist has made global headlines, also drawing the attention of world leaders. It's gone beyond just Turkey and Saudi Arabia. US President Donald Trump expressed concerns over Khashoggi's disappearance. At the latest press conference, President Trump failed to give a concrete response, though.
President, have you spoken to the Saudis about the missing Washington Post?
I have not, no, I haven't. But I will be at some point.
What do you know at this point?
I know nothing right now. I know what everybody else knows, nothing.
United States under pressure to take a tougher stance against its long-term ally Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, the UK has told Saudi Arabia that Britain expects urgent answers over the disappearance of the journalist. UK's Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt said in a tweet, and I'm quoting, "Just met the Saudi ambassador to seek urgent answers over Jamal Khashoggi. Violence against journalists worldwide is going up and is a grave threat to freedom of expression. If media reports prove correct, we will treat the incident seriously. Friendships depend on shared values." The European Union has said it expects a complete investigation into the case of Khashoggi's disappearance. The Saudi government claims that Khashoggi left the consulate compound, but Turkey is seeking proof for that claim. And Mohsin Mogul, journalist at TRT World and executive producer with the channel, spoke to Wion earlier. We began by asking him where the investigation by the Turkish authorities stands at the moment and how they managed to piece together the scanty leads in the case so far to establish that Saudi Arabia hatched the plot. Take a look.
The investigations are probably multi-pronged at the moment. Look, this is a very sensitive matter for Turkey as well, vis-a-vis its relations with Saudi Arabia. At the same time, the authorities are moving quite briskly after the access was granted. It was a very late access that was granted to the investigators here in Istanbul to be able to actually go in and search the consulate compound. Well, yes, they have diplomatic immunity, but it took the Saudi authorities about a week. Exactly a week to actually give access to the investigators to go into that compound and gather evidence. At the moment, there are 15 people who are persons of interest for the authorities' investigators right now. These are those 15 people who the Turkish investigators believe came on 2 private jets from Saudi Arabia, and they landed here a few hours before Khashoggi entered the consulate. Now, these 15 people, and one of them is established as a forensics expert. So it is not quite normal for forensics experts to unnecessarily, or in normal circumstances, to fly between the countries from one consulate, from one country to another, to a consulate, not even to an embassy. That's one. And also, they are now analyzing the CCTV footage, which the Turkish police have obtained from various sources and from various locations. They have the analysis of the footage that has been gained from the hotels that these 15 people checked into, and also the 2 private jets that landed, in fact, before sunrise on a particular day. So they're trying to piece these bits of information together, and also they are trying to establish whether the consulate should be termed or should be turned into a scene of crime. So these are all small developments taking place, but yes, these small developments are really significant and are happening at a very fast pace of time.
We also asked Mohsin where things go from here and what the options are before Turkey diplomatically.
Well, we'll have to wait and see once there is an established findings established from the investigating authorities. What we'll have to see how this pans out diplomatically. Both the countries are cooperating at the same time diplomatically, but all eyes are on what the outcome will be. So it's very hard to say, but this incident definitely has the potential of snowballing into a diplomatic row. We'll have to see how Turkey handles this. They have handled lots of other challenges in the Middle East quite maturely, and we are hoping for that to happen this time again. A lot will also depend on how much the Saudi authorities cooperate in these investigations. A lot will also depend on how much of access they get in investigating these 15 people who actually came from Saudi Arabia, and they all have Saudi Arabian passports. One of them is known to be a forensics expert. So a lot will depend on the kind of access and cooperation that will come from Saudi Arabian side at this point in time.